Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for news stories from Yellowcat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet and let's get started. What is your story when you fired someone or someone was fired because of you? Part 4. Not fired, but my friend got her manager demoted. So, let me tell you a little about my friend Sandy. She worked at this office for years as the receptionist. She did her job, did good work, came in on time, and was generally great, though she had problems with a troubled teen and had to leave for emergencies. Little about me. I work in IT. I deal with emails and do things like deleting phishing attempts and spam emails that our company gets a lot of. It means I can delete any offensive emails from afar. It'll be part of the story at some point. One day, Susan is randomly put in charge of Sandy and a few other people in the buildings. All of this happened because they wanted to give her a raise but needed to get approval from her bosses first. Susan starts telling Sandy that she has to do payroll without paying her for a job that pays twice as much. Susan starts requiring her to text her when she goes to the bathroom, clock in and out, and change shifts. Susan made her explain why she went to the doctor, which is against company policy. Susan's work cell phone was tracked, and she would always call IT to ask about her coworkers' login times and other information. She even tried to lower Sandy's job title and position one pay grade and was successful. I'm sure that Susan was out to get Sandy. This woman was awful. My friend Sandy finally gave up after a few months. She quit her job at 7 a.m. that same day and wrote a 2-page rant about how awful her boss was and how she was treated badly, along with other things she saw VPs and higher-up managers doing, like not doing their work or coming in drunk, etc. Even though it was harsh, the document was mostly written very well. It read like an open letter from the girl who greets you every day. It was sent to everyone in the company. Everyone answered. There was an S-storm. Susan, Sandy's boss, must have gotten her email as a pop-up at 7 a.m. that said, "Today will be my last day," but didn't read it. She wore a cocky smile all morning. People looked at her funny because she was too happy, but no one would laugh at her or tell her off about the email. It seemed likely that she was glad Sandy was gone. At noon, she was called into her boss's office. This was after the boss had a long chat with HR about the email. Soon after, Susan runs into IT and demands that the email be taken back and deleted. We ask her to give us CEO/HR okay. She goes upstairs and tries to get it. The CEO sends an email to IT. Her email is true, it stays. A week later, she was demoted and lost everyone who worked for her. Those people were then given to other managers who were closer to their area or building. IT took over the mailroom. The mailroom worker was so happy to no longer have to work for Susan, who was a tyrant. A lot of her other subordinates feel the same way. She hasn't gotten a raise or promotion in 3 years. This witch is one of the demons that work for my station. She became the regional manager about 1.5 years ago. She was too full of herself to care about anyone else, and she only had bad things to say about them. People at corporate loved her and helped her get this job, even though she had no people skills, management skills, or even general intelligence. As one of her supervisors, I saw all of our best workers leave as soon as she took over. Before she came on the job, about 80% of our employees had been there for more than 2 years, and the longest tenure was about 10 years. But after she graced us with her presence, there wasn't a single agent more than 1 year above her. Even though our numbers were going down, she still expected us to meet all of the metrics. There were no excuses. Well, one day a few very big planes flew in full of luggage, and it was just me and another baggage handler to handle it all. After that, I told her that we really needed help and that either she had to come in and help us or corporate had to send us workers to help us stay afloat. 2 weeks later, there was another very busy shift, but no help was sent. In the end, I hurt my arm so badly lifting so many heavy bags that I couldn't work for at least a month. But she didn't like this, so she called me a baby and told me I needed to man up and go back to work or I would be fired. Even though I told her that my doctor told me not to lift anything, she told me again to man up and do my job. Before my shift was over, I sent an email to corporate with my story. I shared everything I heard her yell at the workers, and all of my other supervisors agreed with me. When I got there the next day, she was crying in her office. "Nobody at this GD station cares. I'm the only one." I wasn't aware that I was chuckling when she started to cry, and she was angry. I was told to go home and come back when I was ready to do my job. I took the weekend off, and when I got back, I went to a party to celebrate the fact that the Wicked Witch is dead. I haven't seen her since then, and every time I think about what she's doing now, I know she's probably in H torturing poor souls. I hope you're homeless and hungry now, Renee. There was a bad branch of the security company I used to work for, but overall the company had a good name. We were paid by the hour, and the rate depended on the client and the object. Those who weren't married to their object could work for anyone who had a time slot. People were supposed to be in 3 places at the same time, but the schedules were all over the place. That would have been enough to get by. It happened a lot, though, that the dispatchers forgot to write down who was sent where and for how long, so some people didn't get paid for whole workdays. In one case, my paycheck was missing a whole check, and I had to go to Central with my duty schedule to fix it. At the time, I just thought it was because people were being careless, at least until I sent in form for travel costs that included a 40-cent train ticket. Since I know how bad keeping records is, I sent everything by certified mail and have been waiting for my money back in vain. When I asked, I was told that the person who signed for the letter must have made a mistake in that they couldn't pay me back without the valid ticket. Luckily, I knew the assistant district manager from a few well-known events. She's a nice old lady most of the time, but she got very angry when I told her the story and showed her the signature. She said over and over that she was sure the person who signed the letter wouldn't mess up like that and that she would fix this right away. And guess what? 2 days later, I got my money back. But that's not all. I heard through the grapevine that she caused a stir in dispatch and that an internal investigation showed that this nonsense was planned. Some people were fired right away and others were given much less work to do. And guess what? They knew I was the one who stirred things up because I wasn't sent out for 3 weeks, which meant I wasn't paid, and when I complained, they tried to send me on dangerous missions. I'm just glad my contract was about to end anyway. Do you have any wild and wacky HOA stories to share? Part 4. Soon after moving into a new neighborhood, we needed a place to store things, so we bought a good quality, unobtrusive wooden shed that was smaller than many of our neighbors. Soon after, we got a letter from the HOA that said something like, "The wise people who started our neighborhood wrote rules that say you can't add new structures, so take down the shed." "Hi, we love the neighborhood, everyone's so nice, and by the way, the shed's staying," was my main answer. Also, I'm not that impressed with the bylaws because the original version from the 1930s said you're not allowed to sell your house to colored people. That part of the bylaws was crossed out, but it can still be read. I didn't hear from them again after that. Since January 2017, we've lived in a neighborhood with an HOA. I thought the rules couldn't be that strict since I saw people breaking small rules like parking on the street. I was so wrong. The first thing my boyfriend had to do for his new job was add a ladder rack to his brand new 2018 Ram truck. He soon learned that this turned his personal car into a commercial vehicle, which is against the rules. No matter what it's used for, any truck with a ladder rack or more than one toolbox is a commercial vehicle. The fines then started. We met with the board in person to figure out what to do, and these are the ideas they gave us. 1. Put your car in the garage. We told them the truck was too tall to fit in the garage, and this old man told us to flatten the tires and then drive the truck in so it would fit. 2. Take down the ladder rack every night and put it back up every morning. Do you really mean that? 3. Park a mile away at a church and walk home. We got rid of the ladder rack and gave him a small trailer, which he parks in the garage and uses instead. What a terrible headache. It seems like no one works here and everyone's retired. It looks like they don't like trade jobs. They'll only hire people for office jobs. Plus, some extra stupid rules. Parking cars is the only thing that garages are for. There can't be a couch or a gym in the garage. It can only hold cars. The garage doors can't be left open for longer than it takes to drive a car in and out. Allowance must be sought in order to do work in your home that needs it to remain open. A 2016 Nissan GTR is what I drive. Yesterday, it was towed out of my street. My neighbor had my car towed by accident. She said it was a blue Nissan. The effing idiot tow driver ignored the illegally parked Altima and took my car instead. For people who aren't into cars, the GTR has a pretty unique all-wheel drive system, and if it's not towed properly, it can damage the drivetrain. The diff was blown when I picked up the car. Even worse, I called Nissan and they told me that the warranty is null and void if I towed the car the wrong way. I now have a repair bill for several $1,000s. Whenever I called the tow company, they told me to talk to the HOA about it because they hired the tow company. The HOA told me to take the tow company to court. What the heck? Edit. To update on the condition of the car, I filed a claim and the car is being torn down and inspected. Things looked good at first, but now they think there may be damage to the transmission as well. So, if they fix the car, I'm probably going to sell it. An interesting thing happened a day or two after this happened. The HOA started writing me tickets for things like my grass being too tall, even though I pay an extra fee to have it mowed, and my house being the wrong color, even though it's been this color since I bought it, and so on. From what I've heard, the tow company is owned by a member of the HOA board. I have no idea how this is legal, but ever since my neighbors heard that I might be suing the tow company, thank you, crazy neighbors, the HOA has been sending me complaint after complaint. I'm really thinking about moving and selling my house. Edit 2. There was an election held, and the old members of the HOA were voted out, and things had calmed down a fair bit. I'll say more about that later. Thank goodness the harassment and other things have stopped. The car needed a transmission and other things in the end. Instead of fixing it, I sold it to someone who planned to take it apart, turbocharge it, and race it in drag races. I used the money to make a down payment on a 911, so everything worked out fine. As for things getting better, I just got married. My wife and I took a honeymoon in the Caribbean. While we were gone, the owner of the tow truck company and his son broke into my house and messed it up. They broke in, but luckily our security cameras caught them. They've been arrested and are now waiting to be tried, so that got out of hand. I'm about to fight with my HOA because they said we had to paint our house by a certain date. When I asked what part of the law states this, they pointed to a part that says the house has to be attractive. The problem is that it's a subjective term that doesn't have a clear meaning in the rules. As a result, Colorado law sees it as unclear and unenforceable. It's been on our list to paint our house for over a year, but they won't let us paint it the same color twice. I had painters give me quotes twice last year, and both of them had immediate openings that would have saved us a lot of money, but it takes 45 days to get approval, so they missed the chance to paint and get a good deal. Our house is starting to fade a little on the south side, but it's still there, and I think it looks nice. I'll even say that one of our neighbors' recently approved paint scheme is terrible, but it was approved by the board anyway, just to show how subjective the term is. Their house is really gross and yellow like puke. I've been in an HOA fight before. Another HOA charged me tens of thousands of dollars after I sued them for not fixing a problem with flooding in the common area. After I filed, one of the board members started to bother me, so I called the police and said I would file a restraining order. I even went to an HOA meeting and told every board member that their home broke the rules. I also told the president she had to step down because she hadn't done enough to stop the lawsuit. They made peace. After a few years, I moved out but still had a roommate because they wouldn't let me rent the property because of the rental percentages. But the law's language wasn't clear, so they couldn't be enforced. This time I got a lawyer involved, and they wouldn't back down, saying they'd fine me $500 a month if I did. I told them I would sue them for harassment. They never did ask, and I sold the place about 9 months later to my roommate. If you want to watch the part 3, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for support.